community and worked with the partners to really create what this library is going to be in the community. The work that we've done to date helped establish the language for the bond, help align the library's vision, the partner's vision, get the word out to the public, and push on to a successful vote and a successful bond award. So from this point forward, we've spent a good part of today, and we had a kickoff meeting about a month ago with all the partners to begin revalidating the program of where we left off. So we're getting an additional round of square footages, trying to organize the partners in this new building, what's planned for next door, and from there we're moving forward. So we're really at the beginning, and we want to hear your ideas, and we'll have the opportunity to hear a little later. I just want to speak a little bit about the partners again, if none of you are aware. The Children's Museum and Families First will be one of the partners with the Missoula Public Library. MCAT, which is the public media and community access television organization is also in the building, and then also Spectrum. Those three organizations will be under this roof with the library and be working with one another very collectively and symbiotically. I think the vision is that these organizations will occupy the building together in unison. Again, A&E and MSR have been hired as the architects for the library. We're working for the Missoula Public Library. A&E Architects is a local firm. We've been here 16 years, but we're a firm of 45 years. MSR is from Minneapolis. But all these consultants below are consultants that we've teamed with in the pre-bond work, and they're going to be continuing to work with us. But we have a whole host of consultants. We had SR Kent, which was a library planning consultant that we used. Kath Williams and Associates, they'll be supporting us with any of our lead sustainability goals and efforts there. Morrison Merrily will be working with us mechanically, electrically on the building. Eclipse Engineering will be our structural consultant. MKK will be our civil consultant on the project. Landscape Architecture Studio. I believe this company no longer exists, so we're actually going to be working with Ferris Design. Access Consulting will be our technology consultant. Big Sky Acoustics will obviously be our acoustic consultant, and then Walker Parking Consultants, they'll actually help us work on the site and lay out parking for the future library. Some of our understanding with the local architecture, I've been in this community 16 years, but we have offices both in Bozeman and Billings, and we don't come to this process with our own style or our own ideas. We want to listen to you, and I think that's what really aligned us well with MSR when we chose them to partner with. We find in Montana, and I think on these big public projects, we have to align ourselves with experts, because I think in Montana we don't have the luxury of specializing in one particular project type. So when we partnered with MSR, we felt like our personalities, the architecture, our vision and how we produce, and the process of design was very much in alignment. So I think we have a very good working relationship so far. But some of the buildings, these are examples of some of the buildings that we've worked on in and around the state. Most notably here in Missoula was probably the Native American Studies, or the building on campus right on the Oval. Was probably our biggest, most public piece of architecture. Tracy, you want to say a few words?
Sure. So as Chris mentioned, MSR Design, and I want to just point out a couple of other of our design team members, if you could raise your hands, because we might need to call on you later. Dagmara Larson, architect with our office. Jack Poling, my fellow principal in charge of the project. Brandon Prinzing from A&E. Yeah, okay. MSR brings the library and museum expertise. We design libraries and museums all over the country and have over 200 public libraries under our belt. So that was the reasoning for us being part of your project, and we're thrilled to be here. And what you see on the screen is exactly what Chris was saying about their firm's work. Similarly, we don't bring a particular style with us. We find with the area, with the context, with the community input, we find the right style for that particular place. And I think you see that represented in the various projects that you see on the screen here. You're going to go talk through this now?
Sure.
Yep.
So this is kind of representational of where we are today. The image that you see on the left is kind of, if you could imagine, this is what our library currently looks like. But that red bar is kind of where we are. So we are at the start of design. And as you move across this screen to the right, you'll see the different stages that you'll be following and be able to play an active role in. So the next phase that we're actually going into is schematic design, but that can't happen until we get more input from everybody and other users. So, and as that design continues to progress, the design development phase would be more of the selection of materials, the windows, the fenestration, the carpeting, so much more of the interior fit out. And then the last phase would be the completed design. But that's kind of where we are today. So we really are at a point where we can seek and hear a lot of input from you folks. And again, we're kind of approaching the end of this green bar. The green bar represents this program confirmation period that we're in. So we've been meeting with the partners, getting updated information on their space needs and refitting their programs into a concept for this building. The blue bar is the next phase, the schematic design phase. So this is where we start to apply architectural design and bring this building and project into kind of a three-dimensional form. The yellow bars would be the DD and the CD effort, or the CD effort's the red bar, correct?
Right.
Yep. So the yellow bar would be the DD phase, and then the red bar is the construction document phase. And our goal would be to be done with the construction documents by the end of the year or early spring for a spring start.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. So tonight, I hope you were ready to do some work, because we are going to be expecting lots of input from you. And we know that not everybody is comfortable speaking up in a large group. So the format for tonight is actually going to be to group you into smaller groups to brainstorm around 3 particular questions. And that's these 3 questions on the screen. But to prime the pump a little bit, as it were, we have a few images around each of these themes. So we'll go through the images of one of the themes. We'll give you guys 5 or 7 minutes or so to, in each of your rows, kind of collect together. The chairs actually slide really easily on the carpet, so you can kind of form yourself into a little cluster. We'll give you 5 or 7 minutes or so to think about some ideas to answer these questions, and then we'll go around the room for another 5 or so minutes for each of these questions and hear your ideas. If you also just have additional ideas that didn't get shared out, you can share those as well. So we don't have to limit it to one aspect per group, but we'll just start there and see how it goes, and keep the energy level high. So what we want to hear from you tonight is around 3 particular themes. As Chris mentioned, we've been doing quite a lot of work with the partners and with the library, trying to understand all of the needs of the community. We did a lot of community engagement through that early programming process before the referendum took place. So we feel like we've got maybe 85% of what we need in order to create a design. And so we're looking to kind of get over the hump, and there's 3 spaces in particular, or 3 space types in particular that we want to address. So the first of that is hands-on learning. What would you like to learn next? What do you see yourself doing in a participatory way in the library? Interior public spaces, what events would you like to participate in? So there's a few spaces that we call kind of the places in between, outside of large meeting rooms, for example, as like a spill-out space. There's opportunity for impromptu kinds of events to take place. What could you imagine taking place in the library? And the third is exterior space opportunities. We hope to have exterior programming opportunities, places for public art and other kinds of ways of engaging with your fellow community members, your family members, and people that you bring to the library. So those are the three themes, and we'll start with hands-on learning. What would you like to learn next? And just a little quick comment about hands-on learning. Many of our libraries are incorporating spaces and programs that are all centered around hands-on learning because it's found to be very key to how people learn. You can actually, there's a lot of research about this, that by reading or hearing a lecture or hearing somebody talk about something, you only retain actually 10 or 20% of that content. When you engage in something and actually try and do something together with another person or engage in hands-on learning in some way, create something, make something, that retention goes up to 80 or 90%. That's a huge difference. And so hands-on learning are a big part of 21st century libraries. When you engage all the senses, like you see up here on the screen, that retention rate goes up. Thank you. And so some examples of hands-on learning spaces that we've done in other buildings. This is Madison, Wisconsin's Central Library. This is a room they call the Bubbler Room. You can see it's pretty it's a pretty flexible space. There's tables on casters. People can do all manner of creation, making, digital, analog, art-based, or in some cases they bring in, for example, they brought in a local brewer who taught how to make beer. It is Wisconsin, after all, so we like our beer there. They've had people come in and teach printmaking. They've had technologies like 3D printers, and so there are all kinds of ways that people engage in hands-on learning. Same building, actually different space, large public meeting room that they can turn into, they've had it as a nightclub. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They've had it used for what they called Design Like Mad, where they had this group of people come in and create a logo for a local social services company, or organization, I should say, that needed a new logo but didn't have the resources to do that on their own. So all these community members came and donated their time, worked literally all the way around the clock, and came up with a new logo. All those kinds of creative activities. So that's another example. Playing and learning, and we know that play equals learning, and so places for people to engage in that sort of activity. On the left is the Pinewood Derby. I understand that's not exactly a term you use here, but little wooden cars that you make out of pine wood. What was that? Cub Scouts, yes, especially Cub Scouts. Using technologies like film or digital technologies, sound booths, that sort of thing. MCAT as a partner will have rich resources for the community to engage around AV, audio and visual kinds of hands-on activities. Down on the left is a knitting club for a gentleman in the Madison area, actually. And then on the right you see science, STEM technologies, or STEM activities, science, technology, engineering, and math, finding their way into the library in different ways. So those are some other examples of hands-on learning. And then more in the creative arts side of things. In this case, you're seeing paper making in the lower left, and on the right is screen printing. So other kinds of learning that can take place. And these are just, again, to get you thinking about what would you like to see happen in the library. So that helps us understand what kinds of design features, what kind of space, what kind of furniture, what kind of lighting, acoustics, all manner of decisions that we already need to be making can be further shaped by the input that we get from you. So I think that was our last, yes, that's the last one to prime the pump here with the ideas. Now, if you could each, in your little rows of 4, we've kind of smartly grouped you, if you've not noticed, into little rows of 4. If you can kind of get yourselves clustered together, and maybe these 2 that are in the front, you can become part of that group and become 6. We don't have to be rigid about 4, but smaller groups will give you a 5-minute clock, and we want at least one new idea from each of your groups, okay? And go.
Spaces. spaces that are for book groups and meetings, but also we want messy spaces. Or you can fling paint or flower, or you don't have to go, oh no, I got it on the ground, oh dear. Spaces, and there's flexible, more spaces, so more things can happen at the same time. So you don't have one large meeting room, it's kind of a one thing, but you could have 6 things that would be separated. And informal sharing spaces. So somebody said, I'd just like to have someone help me to learn how to use my camera. So you can connect up with, like I could have someone help me finish my quilt. You can connect up with other people in informal sharing spaces. I like the messy space. Everything is an office.
Awesome. All right, next, Elizabeth's group, or Audra's group.
We had some similar ideas as far as the flexibility of spaces, but also just the having large. I think a lot of people don't have really expansive tables like you were saying. So having spaces where you can really lay a bunch of stuff out, whether that's a big fabric project or a giant board game sort of thing, or and also that can double as something that will attract community together. We don't really have a big space. There's a couple places that are kind of approaching that, like the UC space on the UM campus, but just Missoula's living room, I guess I put it. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Those are all very consistent with what we heard a year ago too, like Missoula's living room.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you can check those big board games out upstairs.
Yeah.
There's a whole closet full of them.
All right. Awesome, thank you. Elizabeth, are you in a separate group?
Yeah. we're
Okay,
separate.
all right.
Well, we talked about the need or the desire to see more opportunities for continuing education for adults. So whether that was something that was happening with new technologies as they emerged, or whether it was more formal types of education, like language learning, or self-education.
It doesn't stick very well on the, okay. Okay. Is that it? Okay. Next?
Okay, so we talked about having access to computer programs like AutoCAD and Photoshop, things that people can't necessarily afford the licenses to. And then I was also just thinking that if people are going to be working on these giant projects, they might want some storage area they can rent so that they don't have to lug, that quilt home and back and forth. So that's just an idea, like a locker.
And in addition to those computer programs, make it the computer that are able to use, make them inclusive, so they include accessibility software like screen reader programs, Dragon Naturally Speaking, so that everybody can partake in learning opportunities or design opportunities, 3D printing kind of things.
Good. All right, in the back. Nobody wants to speak.
We had a larger discussion. But we talked a little bit about children's learning, so which I know is included, the children's exhibits, but I guess tactile learning, but also adult spaces, sort of separate from kid spaces.
Yep. Okay. Whoops. Okay.
Well, finger painting for adults.
Okay. Okay. Middle in the level.
Yeah, so we thought first it'd be great to have some soundproof rooms so people can practice musical instruments. Maybe they live in apartment buildings and their neighbors would appreciate it. We also thought it would be interesting to have some kind of small interior auditorium where people could do a story time or Toastmasters or something like that.
Okay.
So maybe something where the acoustics, you're in the room, but the acoustics of it make it so that you're not necessarily impacting the whole room. We think it would be interesting to have a cafe where people could actually volunteer there to get some kind of hands-on skills, to get their food handler's permit, but also entry-level job skills as well. And I think we missed something.
You're hired.
Great. Okay,
It's my dream.
Those are great ideas.
awesome. And the front.
So I think one thing that we thought of that was a little different than other groups was, group, like somewhere to do group exercise, like yoga or Tai Chi or something like that. And then another thing that was a little different was, having, other than having activity spaces, having resting spaces as well, having more like comfortable lounge spaces, just to
All right.
I had mentioned
Awesome.
last year of having at least one sink, some sinks in with the room, so for painting.
Again with the messiness, Christine.
I could be in a messy room.
Okay.
Painting and calligraphy and art.
I guess
Usually
this
you have
one's
to go to the bathroom and use the sink.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, another one.
Can I add something, sort of similar to the like performance, acoustically separated area? A place for musical performance
Yes.
and musical learning. The Vancouver BC Library has an instrument lending library.
Uh-huh, okay. Whoops. Okay. Any others that didn't get covered from the other groups on the back?
Hey, what would be a good idea would be to complement MCPS type stuff. So if you have, if you want to work with like the school, maybe you can offer like maybe some things and activities or programs here that kind of complement a lot of after school programs.
Can you give an example?
I guess like like when you're talking about Photoshop and whatnot, if kids have like projects that they can't do at school, it'd be great if they could offer them here so they can come here.
Okay. Excellent. Any others that didn't make it on our pages yet? No? This was fantastic. Oh yeah, one more.
I think it'd be really interesting to learn about agriculture, if there was a community
Yeah.
garden component, even if it's flowers, just so that people start to understand maybe what the growing cycle is, or what grows here naturally, what's a native species. What isn't.
Okay. And there is talk of a seed lending library.
There
already is. Right, there already is, I'm sorry. I'm in future state already, so everything is coming in my world, sorry. Okay, we're gonna move to the next one. This was awesome. Keep up the energy. Keep it up, keep it up. So now we're gonna talk about, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm really messing this one up. I keep crumbling it and putting it in my pocket. You're gonna have really bad audio, I apologize. Interior public spaces. What events would you like to participate in? It's not unheard of for libraries to become places to do all kinds of even personal events like weddings or receptions. Organizations, of course, are coming to libraries already to use them for all kinds of meetings and programming. So what you're seeing on the screen on this one is actually the same library used in many different ways, from weddings to interesting art-based events to even a nightclub, that bottom right-hand corner. A large meeting space, the design like Mad Room that we looked at before, now turned into a nightclub. Art gallery, kind of events, celebrating art and creativity. And then also a place to be a community heart. So we heard the term living room before. That was great. Audra, thank you. Also a place for large gatherings and Maybe book events or author events or poetry readings or things of that nature. And then a whole slide just about rock stages because we thought that was pretty awesome. So actually the one on the left, if we had audio hooked up, it would play, oh, it's flat now, it's flattened, okay. From the Tulsa Central Library, but also other ways of engaging around music. You mentioned music. I think we very much think of that as part of the public experience. And so that's what we've got just to prime the pump for this particular section. Do you feel like you want to stay with your folks or do you want to mix it up? Stay with your folks. All right. Comfort in sameness. Okay. So we're going to give you, we gave you extra time last time because you needed to get to know one another a little bit. We're going to stick to the 5 minutes this time, so you have to be sharp and quick with those thoughts. All right? Ready? Go.
This time we'll go clockwise, and we'll start where we ended up last time. So, as soon as you get yourselves resettled.
Sorry. All right, ready? We're going to start in this corner, and we'll go clockwise.
So some of the things we thought of was a space to support big events, like a catering kitchen type space. We thought it was nice. Kind of goes with the other topic of having a space for concerts, space for public meetings, like larger meeting spaces, and then we like the idea of having a space that can be indoor, outdoor, where it can open up to outside and you kind of go between inside and outside.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Got all that, Chris? Yep. All right. Next.
We also think that it would be great to have some place where music could be performed. We think that would be great. Also, if there was wall space dedicated to galleries and exhibitions of some kind, maybe just making it available throughout the library. We think it would be great to have sleepovers for kids. Adults? Why not? You know.
Sleepovers, awesome.
It actually happens to be one of my childhood memories. It's like a sleepover in my elementary school library. So.
Cool.
And then fundraisers. Again, it's that large meeting space that is really lacking in the area.
Okay. Room for fundraisers.
Bigger than this room?
I would say bigger, yeah.
Bigger than this
Something
room?
gala-ish.
Like how many people-ish would you say? 250, 300? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And just to add on to the gallery space idea, the term that we heard was adaptable displays.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, like not necessarily walls, but just something that you can change out for various kinds of displays.
And maybe even move out of the way if you needed to. Yeah. Okay. Great. Good. All right. The group in the back.
So we talked about a lot of these same things. We talked about weddings that people have been to, book clubs in the library. And one question that we had was alcohol, because when you think about these events, a nightclub, a book club, sometimes alcohol comes up. So it was a big question mark in our heads.
Okay. All right.
And also, there's a few film festivals in town, and it would be nice to have a space that we could use as another satellite film showing.
Like walls big enough to project.
Kind of like this room, but.
Okay. About the size of this as well? Okay. Okay. Good. All right, back here. We'll work our way up.
I think we talked about art spaces as well, and then having meeting spaces that were, fully accessible. First Friday, the library should be open for First Friday events. And we should have Lego Club that's all the time, not just on
24/7 Lego Club.
Yeah, not just on Thursdays from 3:30 to 5. That's just not enough Legos.
Okay.
Oh, and testing center.
And a testing center.
So there's
Okay.
quite a few tests you have to drive to Helena for, to get your certifications, or we had a couple of different examples. And we were trying to see if there's a way to get a satellite testing center in Missoula for different kinds of tests.
And then designing meeting space and things like that, for like public meetings, so like public councils and different things like that, because there's a real lack of them, other than if you, unless you go like pay a hotel for that stuff. But also incorporated kind of a design where TED Talks or some kind of
Okay. Yep.
format could be incorporated.
Okay. So another star next to that large meeting room, huh? Okay. All right, next group.
Well, to build on that idea of the film festival, one idea we had was because MCAT was in the building, you would actually have that learning opportunity for making your own films, and then to actually have like a sponsored film festival of those, for those people who created within the library. They could then, we could have our own film festival for people who have learned the skills and produce something.
Nice.
A multimedia center or place for people to do business work, like scanning, faxing, any kind of those kind of business type like activities. Yeah, like a print shop for the public.
Or even
Small,
crafts.
what's that?
Crafts as well.
And crafts. And then in smaller public spaces, having room for, say, teens or children who don't have an opportunity at home for quiet study areas, or who need to meet with tutors. So have like tutorial rooms. And then to have small spaces set aside, which would be quiet rooms. And what was meant by this was actually like silence as a commodity. That it's very hard to find quiet spaces. So for personal contemplation or meditation, to have for reading or whatever, where you could have that kind of personal time.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Audra, you're in a different group, right?
No,
you were in the same group.
Yeah,
Okay.
we merged.
You
our
merged.
slitters. Yeah.
I don't know if that's, I think that's against the rules, maybe.
It's all about building
Okay.
community here in the library.
Oh, good. All right, final group then, in the front here.
We got a place for political debates.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm glad this group said that because they laughed at me when I said I wanted a quiet, soundproof individual space for myself. You did laugh at me. They talked about large spaces where people, kind of like the living room we have, but there'd be tables and people could just sit and read together.
Okay.
Not the same thing, but they would just,
Be alone together?
just be able to sit and read at tables.
Okay.
A little like an old-fashioned big reading room.
Yeah, okay.
Boardroom-sized rooms with a computer and screens with projectors for meetings, for smaller meetings.
Okay.
They like the size of the boardroom, this board.
Yep.
And you guys can help me because we kind of talked about this at the end, but that the entryway when we come in transports us to another beautiful place. We're like in somewhere really wonderful. Is that kind of it?
That's a nice
Okay.
way of putting it. We talked about beautiful, an architecturally beautiful space we could all privately participate in together.
Nice.
As we pass through it, kind of like the entry to the art museum.
Yes, okay. That's a lovely thought.
It doesn't need to be absolutely efficient in its use of space.
It doesn't have to be efficient in its use of space.
Got
has
it.
to be beautiful.
Got it. Okay, all right. It's a very lovely thought. Okay, it is already, well, this is 5 minutes fast, I'm told, so we should have time to do our last exercise, but I just want to make sure that everybody's cool staying maybe just a few minutes late in case. Okay, awesome. Okay, so our last question for input tonight is exterior space opportunities. So we just talked about interior spaces. Now let's take that thinking to the outside. What kinds of things would you like to participate in outside the library? And here's just some ideas to get you thinking about what that could be. So, simply reading together, an outdoor reading room. Maybe there's a pop-up library at times. Maybe sometimes there's actually materials outside. Wi-Fi access outside, perhaps. Places for some sort of outdoor programming. you know, a place to relax, be on your own, and play. Again, either interacting around sculpture, like you're seeing in the bottom right-hand corner, or playing games, like you're seeing in the kind of the middle of the page. Or, you know, we talked about yoga on the inside. Here's some people doing yoga outside, so maybe there's just a nice grass place that could happen that's a little bit reserved for, or removed from the main street. And then we know that there is winter here. We come from a cold place as well and understand that if you don't embrace winter, you're going to be miserable for a large part of the year, so get out there and enjoy it. And so not forgetting that there are times to be outside when there is snow and ice. And so maybe there's places for you know, engaging around new kinds of art, like the paper making in the middle, or there's a community event that can create something that's interesting to experience. So that's it for, oh, no, I'm sorry, I forgot date night. Date night at the library. An outdoor movie experience, perhaps, for families or for your favorite someone. Okay, that's it for priming the pump for outdoor activities. We're going to be really strict about the time again. So 5 minutes. We're going to stay in our groups again. Everybody wants to stay with your groups? Okay. Ready, go. Let's regroup. And if I was able to keep track, I would just like bounce around, but I'm afraid I won't be able to do that. So we'll just go counterclockwise again. Except we'll start second group in and end up here. And I know that's about as crazy as I can get at this stage of the night. So, all right, so we'll start here.
Well, an outdoor fire pit, right? A Zen garden,
Rooftop.
and a living roof with educational opportunities associated with that, so you can learn about living roofs, and a solar energy panel, outdoor interactive educational.
Learning around solar.
Yes.
Okay.
Or learn about it.
Yeah. Okay. Or other renewables. Okay.
An outdoor stage or a place for children to perform.
Nice.
Oh, and a meditation pool with the Zen garden.
A small drone piloting area. Drone piloting area.
They're like super into drones.
Okay. All right. Okay. To the back.
Oh man, we talked about a lot of things. Better parking. Having outdoor eating space potentially that's associated with the cafe or whatever. I was lobbying for a sand and water table. Oh man, what else? Outdoor reading areas, like the movie idea. Community garden. We're gonna run out of space pretty quick. Oh, and a hot tub while we're at it.
And if there's any like, play area out there, incorporating like tactile and visual components from the All Abilities Playground in McCormick Park to kind of provide a learning experience for children with autism and other sensory disabilities.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. This group in the back.
We also liked the living roof idea. We liked the idea of a cafe being able to open to the sidewalk or the outside, and art that you can touch, tactile art.
Okay. All right. Up to here.
Yeah, we would like space for food trucks. We also agree that the roof should be used in some way. We think that some kind of conservatory would be fantastic, where some way to continue to enjoy the seasons no matter what, but big walls of windows, but be able to stay warm and dry. We would also like a drive-up window because this is a good way to alleviate parking congestion.
For dropping your materials, you mean?
And pickups as well.
And pickups as well, okay?
Yep. And in addition to that, if there were more drop-off stations throughout the city, then that would also alleviate, perhaps a couple hundred parking activities each day. So that would free up room for the people who are coming for other activities every day as well.
Okay.
So kind of a more complementary strategy for drop-offs. And there was something else.
If it comes back to you, you can, do you remember?
No.
No, all right. If it comes back to you, just holler.
Okay.
All right, up here?
I think one of the things that hasn't been said yet was some kind of place for bike storage, maybe covered bike parking. We like the idea of the interactive art, like some of those pictures you could climb on or roam in between, that kind of idea. And then if there is a parking garage kind of structure involved, one of the good ideas that we had seen other places was some have a little like red light and green light above the spot so you can see if it's
full.
occupied or not.
Okay,
So
good, okay. All right, last but not least, Christine.
We had some of the same ideas, the space for educational gardening, rooftop garden. We like the pop-up library and having the art chairs, the chairs are.
The top left corner of it.
Yeah, like the art chairs. Outdoor movies and a space for outdoor theater for adults and kids. One of our roof things on the roof is yoga. We want to have yoga on the roof as well as a garden. And the thing that nobody mentioned is we want to have enough space for ice sculpture contests, snowman building contests, and a community ice maze building project.
A community ice maze? What was that?
Maze.
Oh, ice
Community
maze.
ice maze built. So we have to have enough room for this community ice maze building.
Right? I'm not. That's good, okay. All right, any others? Yes?
One of the things that came up was, are we competing with other people when we start to talk about movies and stuff?
Yeah.
And my thought was, let's not worry about that yet. Somebody will tell us. But I see this complementary.
Yeah.
Not competing. We need to try to open wider.
That's wonderful.
Rather than cut things off.
And since we have Shakespeare in the Park, we have the children's theater, why can't they come here and do something too, as well as other places?
All right, another one here.
I think many of the activities need to be geared towards people who can't maybe afford a family movie out at Carmike or other events.
Very good. Good. Awesome ideas all night. You've done such a good job. Are there any other parting shots before we'll just let you know what the next steps are? You remembered it.
No, it's just a parting shot.
Okay.
So my personal research is about introverts in public space.
Yeah.
And so the library is a classically introverted space. It's one of the rare places that introverts can actually go to and know that they're not going to be inundated. And I would say that as we continue to think about libraries as they grow into community centers, just remember that it's very hard for half of the population to find a quiet place in the city. And we do still want to be able to go out in public, but not necessarily be surrounded by 100 people all the time.
That's a fabulous point. And yes, we work with this all the time in our libraries, that there needs to be a balance. Tonight we did focus on more of the active kinds of aspects of the library, but you're absolutely right. Places for heads down concentration and solitude is also a really important part. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Going back to
one more?
interior spaces, something that might be kind of useful is kind of having areas where local nonprofits can have information available, or maybe
Yeah.
a kind of a resource area.
Yeah, good. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, I hope you all come again, because this was one of the best groups I think we've ever worked with, actually, at a public meeting. I've got to say, I really appreciate that you were so engaged. There is another one coming up June 29th, and it's a collaboration session. You'll just have to see what that means. And then if you can't make that, because I know summer is difficult, people are on, away and doing wonderful things. August 16th, there's another opportunity. So these cards are on that table. Take one before you go so you can put it on your refrigerator at home and not forget to come and talk to us again. But our next, what's next is, now that we've got all this great input, and along with the input that we received throughout the day today from other conversations with different stakeholder groups, we will finalize the building program and start that schematic design phase. And then, as I said, next public meeting is June 29th. So we're starting the path. We hope you'll continue to stay engaged and keep coming to the meetings. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.